Hi guys, it's Miss Landry, and this is lesson 3.6, Dissociative Disorders. This is a pretty short video, so let's jump right in. First of all, just a reminder of what your learning objective is. By the end of this video, you should be able to describe the differences between dissociative amnesia, dissociative fugue state, and dissociative identity disorder. You can also possibly explain some reasons for these disorders. So here we go. All right, first of all, let's jump in. What does it mean to dissociate according to psychologists? What it means is basically your conscious awareness separates from like things that you don't want to identify. So, painful feelings, thoughts, emotions, and memories. It's almost like what we used to call back in the day a psychotic break. So your brain just can't handle what's happening in your life, and so it dissociates from life. Now there's two different types. The first type that you need to know is dissociative fugue. This can include amnesia. It's a little bit different than dissociative amnesia itself without fugue state. But basically, people tend to wander away from home, or they can go ahead and just completely change their identity, change their personality. They usually start a whole new life, oftentimes without remembering their past life. The important thing to remember is that this is often in response to stressful stimulus and also to repressed memories, according to psychologists. Whoops, let me go back. I have a short video for you guys to watch, so I'm going to go ahead and play it now. Let me hide this. Here you go. Hold on, that didn't work. Well, I'll have to come back to that video. Sorry, guys. It was a video about a guy that had been found. He was found wandering the streets in Denver, Colorado, our city. This was about 13 years ago. He had no recollection of who he was, where he was from. He had $8 in his pocket, and he actually went on the news looking for someone to call in to kind of say, oh, I know that guy, or, oh, that's our son, or whatever. Eventually, his fiance met up with him, and once he saw his fiance, everything came back to him. It was kind of crazy. But imagine like just being all of a sudden kind of becoming aware that you're in a city that you don't know how you got there, you don't know who you are. As a matter of fact, they even show in the video, and I'll post the link to the video for you, but they took him to breakfast and he couldn't even remember what his favorite breakfast food was. And so honestly, the guy, he just had no idea who he was. And I think that something must have happened in his life to make him have this dissociative break. Okay, next we go to a really interesting disorder. This is, it used to be called multiple personality disorders. It's now called dissociative identity disorder. And basically, the definition of this is when there is more than one unique personality that controls a single person's behavior. And it's rarely violent. There was one case with the Hillside Stranglers where a psychologist they were cousins who were killing people out in California. And at one point during a psychological hypnosis session, one of the cousins stated that there was this guy, Steve, who was the one who went and killed everybody, and that Steve hated Ken. Ken was actually the person who was being charged with the crime. But Ken later said that he had lied and that there was no Steve, and that he made it all up. But you might have heard of the movie Sybil. That movie is based on a case study of a real person named Shirley Mason, I believe back in the 50s. And she had been sexually abused as a child and ended up with about 12 to 14 different personalities. And it's a really interesting movie, but I don't know that the movie necessarily portrays the dissociative identity disorder as accurately as it should, but it is a pretty disturbing movie. People who are skeptical about this disorder, back when the DSM I think it was the DSM-2 at the time, when they first added this description of this disorder, um, the amount of people diagnosed with it went from 2 per decade, so 2 people in every 10 years, to over 20,000 people per decade. And in addition, each person that went in for therapy, they went from an average of 2 different personalities to more than 12 per patient. And so there's some people that feel like, that doesn't sound quite right. But then the people who do support this disorder state that their evidence is that when they do brain scans, when the people actually dissociate and go into different personalities, they have very different brain scans. Even their body states are different with each personality. So that kind of supports the idea of different personalities. So I'm going to show you a short video. This is of a young woman who has dissociative identity disorder, and you'll see a couple of her personalities. So here we go. Okay, so hopefully that kind of gives you an idea. You could see one of our personalities was a very young child. And then you saw the personality of herself, which was, I just think those videos are interesting. If you Google dissociative identity disorder on video, you will see some interesting videos of people. There's a woman out of Australia who has over 2,000 personalities. And there's a video of her, and you see her become this young child named Symphony. It's really interesting. So hopefully that gives you an idea of what it's like. So just to summarize for this video, by the end of this, you should be able to differentiate between dissociative amnesia, dissociative fugue, and identity disorder. And so I just have a few things to remind you of. Remember that a fugue or a dissociative order is a situation where your conscious awareness breaks away. Fugue state can have a loss of memory, but more than anything, it is a loss of identity. So you don't know who you are. It's a very specific amnesia, whereas dissociative amnesia is characterized by loss of memory in reaction to a traumatic event. And so I hope that helped. The last thing is dissociative identity disorder. Obviously, this is a situation where people have multiple unique personalities. About 1% to 2% of the population suffers from suspected DID, and it is psychologists believe it is a method of surviving horrific abuse in childhood. All right, guys, that's it.